Hello, everybody, and welcome to Got Your Back NHL edition. LeBrun and Rishaug. Oh, we got a great interview for you today, folks. Trevor Zegras of the Anaheim Ducks. Dynamic, skilled, filled with personality. One of the bright young stars in the National Hockey League, and we had a lot of fun with him today. We talked about some stuff on the ice, but also dug into a lot of off-ice things, asked him a lot of questions to get to know him a little bit better. Trevor Zegras, awesome guest today, and we were so thrilled to have him. That's coming up in just a few minutes. Got Your Back NHL brought to you by Cross Country Canada Supplies and Rentals. Cross Country Canada was started back in 2014. Just four pipeline pals who wanted to offer rentals and supplies to the industry that they were so passionate about. With just a garage and a folding table, they came up with their idea. They used their connections, and they built a big, successful company. They actually sold it. But you know what? They realized they loved what they did too much, so they bought it back a couple of years later. And they're so proud of the fact that Cross Country Canada is now 100% Canadian-owned, operated, 100% Canadian employees. They've got multiple locations across Western Canada, over 100 employees, and have diversified into every area of the construction industry. Cross Country Canada Supplies and Rentals, our title sponsor here on Got Your Back NHL edition. As we say, good morning to Pierre LeBrun. How are we doing this morning, Pierre? You're a little under the weather, my friend.
I'm gonna play through it here, buddy. You gotta, you know what? Sometimes you have your best games when you're under the weather. So
you're playing hurt, eh?
I'm playing hurt. Something going through. One of my kids has it as well, but as I told her, better now than at Christmas time.
Yeah, no kidding. Everybody's got, man. It ripped through our house too, and I'm not sure if it's. I don't know if it's because we were all protecting ourselves so much through COVID, or our systems have gotten soft. I don't know what's going on. I feel like this thing hammered me, like absolutely hammered me, right. And everybody else is feeling the same.
Yeah, that's okay. We'll power through though, buddy.
For sure we will. Loved our conversation with Trevor Zegras. How much fun is this young guy? Like, just so good-spirited and so much fun.
Yeah, really well-spoken and terrific personality. I've not really had the chance to talk to him in that way. You know, you think about the pandemic and everyone in a bubble and dressing rooms haven't been open until this year. You know, that's not a room that I've been in since he's been an NHLer. So it was great to have that chat with him and for him to sort of hear us with our old dad questions. It's the way I would call
it. Your dad questions. Although I got kids that are right in around his age too. So I guess, you know what? In fairness, I asked some dad questions too. I'm pretty sure I asked him if he did his dishes today. I don't know if you get more of a dad question than that.
Yeah. Well, I hope that people enjoy the interview you had with him. I mean, I think the highlight for me was telling him that I played EA Sports Hockey 93 and 94 version.
Yeah, exactly.
A long time ago.
He was kind of.
The Hartford Whalers were in the game back then, right?
Yeah. He was like, there were video games back then. By the way, we also asked him who he plays with when he plays the game, and his answer might surprise you or it might not. So that's coming up in our Who's Got Your Back segment. Before that, though, we want to, here's what we're going to do today quickly. All 7 Canadian teams in action last night. We're going to rip through a quick update on all 7 Canadian teams and where they're at. And we're also going to examine some of the streaky teams in the National Hockey League right now. It's a streaky point in time in the NHL. So let's get that done. That is the breakdown. Brought to you by Pro Hockey Life. Hockey fans, Pro Hockey Life is the place to go to get yourself outfitted with your favorite team gear, your favorite sweater, whether it's your favorite player's name and number. You could even throw your name on there if you wanted to. They've got an awesome selection of team apparel, and it doesn't end at jerseys. I was in there a couple of weeks ago. A huge range of hats and t-shirts, souvenirs, everything you need for yourself or for the huge hockey fan in your life. They also do an awesome job with custom skate sharpenings. They make sure you get your wheels exactly how you want them. They've got 16 locations across the country. Pro Hockey Life, like you, like us, is obsessed with the game. All right, let's go around the horn here. in Canada, Pierre, talking about some of the Canadian teams in action last night. No particular order. We're not doing this geographically. We're just going to start picking off some stories. And let's begin with the Calgary Flames. I'm not sure they've won a game since we had Brad Treliving on the podcast, which doesn't...
I was just about to say that.
Doesn't bode well
He's
for us.
He's never going to come on again.
I know. So 6 straight losses. 5, man, just a heart. Jonathan Huberdeau's got a goal and 5 assists for 6 points. Only 20 shots on net through 11 games played here. Jacob Markstrom in his last 5 has really been struggling. Pierre, man, they're really having a hard time getting this thing back on track. 6 straight losses.
So, and here's the interesting thing. You may remember that I called myself out a couple of weeks ago because I thought the Flames would struggle in the opening month. And I was surprised when they came out of the gate so strongly in the couple of weeks because I just felt when you move such important pieces of your core and the guys who play the most minutes on your team and replace them with guys playing a lot of minutes, to me, in the history of this league, you've seen those teams take a while to find their sea legs. And so the first couple of weeks, I'm like, well, there goes that theory. I mean, I think Calgary was what, like 4-0 or 4-1 to start the year. But now I think we're seeing exactly what I thought was going to happen right out of the gate, which is a team that's trying to find its new identity with all these different pieces having moved. And I think that should happen. It shouldn't be that easy to change your core and just take off. So I think they'll turn the corner here. Obviously, the injury of the Huberdeau is a bit of a concern. I did send a text to a Flame source last night who said they think it's a short-term type injury, so they don't think it's too serious, but certainly noteworthy.
Jacob Markstrom in his last 5 games, 0-3-2, with an .882 save percentage, has really struggled after a pretty good start for him. All right, on to the Ottawa Senators. Deadpool was in the building last night. Really cool moment.
Yeah.
I mean, they break the news on Jimmy Fallon, or he confirms publicly for the first time that yes, he is looking into it, that he needs to find a sugar mama or a sugar daddy to help him, put a deal together in what sounds like will be a competitive buying opportunity for the Ottawa Senators. 6-4 loss to the Vancouver Canucks he witnessed after a nice standing ovation. What do you make of this whole Ryan Reynolds Ottawa Senators thing, Pierre? It feels like this can't be anything but good for the league if it happens.
Well, the NHL loves this. Like, there isn't a single executive in the head office in New York and the head office in Toronto who isn't doing cartwheels over having the NHL even associated with a Hollywood A-lister like Ryan Reynolds. Like, come on.
Kidding.
This never happens with hockey. Like, this is phenomenal for the league. Although, at some point, as Ryan Reynolds perhaps gets more serious about giving up money and trying to be one of the bidders, my guess is he'll hear from Gary Bettman. And Gary Bettman...
He was in the building last night, Ryan, too.
Well, Gary Bettman's not big on prospective owners being too public about their desire to buy a team. You may remember this Jim Balsillie.
Yes.
And his attempt to buy Arizona. Even Oren Koulis and Len Barry in Tampa, very outspoken owners. Or Oren Koulis was anyway. His own Hollywood background with Oren. Those were guys that were harder to handle for Bettman. So that's the one thing that I wonder after the love in here is whether Ryan Reynolds gets a bit of a text at some point saying, "Okay,
like, hey, cool your jets there,
be careful what you say here." Yeah.
Slow your roll.
Be careful what you say from your end. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. By the way, I thought it was interesting that Ryan Reynolds pretended to be so upset every time the Canucks scored in Ottawa last night.
I know, like
he's from Vancouver too. Come on.
Well, it'd be a great story if it were to happen, but as it has been reported, probably be fairly competitive, and he's going to need a little bit of help. Alex DeBrincat, just 2 goals in 12 games, has 11 points though. The Senators are 4-8-0, and the Ottawa Senators currently sitting in 8th place in the Atlantic.
Before we move on quickly, I got to tell you something. That's a really brutal start for a team that had big time aspirations this year. Not big time as in they're definitely going to make the playoffs, but the Senators really saw themselves as a team that was going to take that step, kind of like what we're seeing with with Detroit and New Jersey, etc. And the Senators being mired in this winless streak right now is really not well accepted in that market, by the way. So keep an eye. The GM Pierre Dorion did speak to the media yesterday, but
yeah, the DJ Smith
I
stuff,
got to think.
Pierre, like the DJ Smith stuff. He gets asked the question. He said DJ Smith's our coach. I don't really read into a lot to what they actually say publicly to the media. What's real behind the scenes to me is always very different. What's your true sense of the coaching stability?
My true sense is, my true sense is that Pierre Dorion does not want to fire DJ Smith now. Yeah, ask me again in a couple of weeks if they haven't won a game. I think what it does, though, it puts even more pressure on Pierre Dorion, Ryan, to bolster his blue line, which was a story before the season even started, that they needed to bolster that blue line. That's why all the Jacob Trickett talk is out there. But I think that the pressure really is on the GM, I think, to make a trade. And it's hard to make a trade at this time of year.
No question. The Vancouver Canucks almost blew another lead last night playing against those Ottawa Senators. They win 6-4. So they're now 4-6-3. Bo Horvat is definitely catching fire.
Wow.
They were looking for somebody to grab this thing and run with it. They needed their leaders to lead and emerge. Bo Horvat has 2 goals in 4 of his last 5 games. The pressure is still not off, though, in Vancouver, where the record is not anywhere near what they would like it to be. The Canucks currently in 6th place in the Pacific.
So Bo Horvat is playing so well that I think he's playing himself out of Vancouver.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if you're the Canucks and you're not a playoff team, and who knows, there's still lots of hockey to be played, but if we get January 1st and the Canucks are not sitting in a playoff spot or anywhere close, Bo Horvat remains without a contract extension, they don't have a choice. I mean, they got to market him, right? 27 years old, two-way center, man, oh man, like that's the kind of asset that you turn into the kind of assets that the Canucks need as they retool this thing. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I don't understand. They signed JT Miller, which I didn't quite get at the time, but I don't know how you can really justify extending Bo Horvat other than he's an awesome hockey player and he's your captain. But if more of the same is not getting you where you need to as a team, I just think so. I think it's a fascinating story that he remains without an extension. He's scoring lights out, and I think they're going to move him.
Bruce Boudreau, like those comments from Jimmy Rutherford. Jimmy Rutherford's been around a long time. He knows exactly, the fire he's lighting when he does what he went out and did. So it just feels like, long term, there's just no way that this remains a fit with Bruce Boudreau. Really, it seems a matter of when as opposed to if at this point. What did you make of Rutherford's comments and what it means for Boudreau?
Yeah, and what was interesting to me, I guess, is that, and I think it was in a Sportsnet radio interview, right? Jim Rutherford on Monday. That was like 8 days after I had an interview with Jim Rutherford. And all I can tell you is that the tone in my interview with Jim Rutherford 8 days prior was quite different than the tone that you could hear in that interview. In other words, within 8 days, I think Jim Rutherford has run out of a bit of patience here with what he's seeing. Yeah. Which tells you about, I think, the pressure in that market to figure this out. And, if we know anything about Jim Rutherford and his history, now, again, he's not the GM, Patrick Alvin is that he doesn't wait too long to start making moves when he's not happy with what he's seeing. So that feels like the first Canadian market where we should get some major news here at some point over the next month or so.
Edmonton Oilers 4th in the Pacific, 8-6-0. They snap a 3-game losing skid with a 3-2 win over Tampa Bay. Scary, scary scene with Evander Kane. The way he hopped up, holding his wrist, headed off the ice, yelling for help. They blew it down, even though he got himself off the ice. Everybody was so jarred by what happened there. Now, the good news is Kane was well looked after, taken to hospital. He is okay. It's a deep cut on his wrist. Pierre, that one just cut. That's a tough one to see.
You just never want to see it, and it pops up here and there every couple of years, and it just scares the heck out of you. It's the scariest thing there is, and glad to see that he's doing well. And I thought, aside from that, the way the Oilers reacted within that game, was pretty impressive. Playing shorthanded and got it. I think it was the first win in Tampa since 2009. Is that right?
Yeah, 13 years,
something like that. Yeah. I mean, that was a pretty gutsy win by the Oilers on the road.
Jack Campbell. I was the one that asked him the question after the last game where he responded with pathetic to describe his own play so far this season. While he was in Toronto, he would often do this as well, just be really, really hard on himself. He bounced back. 35 saves, was really solid in that game. Certainly not a pathetic performance, but interesting that he was that hard on himself, Pierre, and important that he bounced back.
And I think it's why he's so popular in with his teammates, both when he was in Toronto and now in Edmonton, is that he's super accountable. He sort of singles himself out when he's not playing well, and I think teammates love that honesty about him. But I thought he was outstanding last night, and especially in the last 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, Stamkos and Kucherov got some looks, and he was in the perfect spot, not just to make the save, but absorb the puck and didn't allow any rebounds in those situations. That's really what Tampa was looking for, is to create traffic, and was Jack Campbell's finest moment as an Oiler, I think.
Ho-hum for Connor McDavid, leading the league. 14 goals, 15 assists, 29 points. Leon Drysdale second, 9-17 for 26. The Winnipeg Jets, 3 straight wins, 7 straight games with points, 7-2-1 in their last 10 games. A 5-1 win over the Dallas Stars. They are leading the Central. Really nice start here for Winnipeg.
And I don't know about you, but I had no sense of the Jets coming into this year. I couldn't put my finger on how I thought the year would go for them. Usually with a coaching change, you do moves, and Rick Bowness, everywhere he goes, has had that kind of positive effect. So I certainly thought that. But then taking the C off Blake Wheeler, and where is that whole thing at? And does Mark Scheifele want to be a Jet that long, or Pierre-Luc Dubois? There just were so many things swirling there that I thought to myself, is this going to be a disaster, or is it going to be okay? And look at what's happening. It's interesting. They're playing really good hockey.
Mark Scheifele with a couple of goals, has 8 now on the season. Toronto Maple Leafs, 3rd in the Atlantic, 7-4-3, a 4-3 overtime loss to Vegas. 5-2-3 in their last 10, Pierre. Riley Smith with a really nice overtime winner in that game last night where the Leafs tried to get themselves back into it, but kind of some mistakes late that cost them.
Yeah, defensive mistakes, and we've seen that all year from that team. The Leafs have had a pretty good stretch here before that loss. They still got a point against league-leading Vegas, but wins over Boston and Carolina, and then a decent effort against Vegas. So that's quieted the storm here in Toronto for now. Obviously, the story is still what's going to happen with their goaltending. Positive news in terms of Matt Murray supposed to join his teammates for a first full practice today in Toronto, and also the fact that Ilya Samsonov was seen working with the goalie coach on the ice yesterday, even though he's termed still week to week. I mean, obviously, if he's able to work on the ice, that there's got to be some positive in that. So really, for the Leafs, it's also about just trying to get these guys back in net here to stabilize that situation.
Tough finish on the night for Mitch Marner, who, if you didn't see, scored a nice goal, had a phenomenal assist. Really good night for him. Made a big impact on the game, but was one of the 2 that got split on the winning goal in overtime. Austin Matthews, 6 goals, 8 assists, 14 points. I mean, those aren't numbers to shake a stick at, but this is Austin Matthews. This is the reigning MVP. 6 goals, 66 shots. He's shooting 9.1%. His career's 16. Where are you at on the way Matthews is playing overall?
I don't have a concern there. I honestly think the numbers will all end up being to where we thought they'd be with them by the end of the year. I know that people want to look at that, but honestly, he started slow a year ago too. So
Yeah.
I don't think that's the story for me.
All right, Montreal Canadiens 6-6-1. They're seventh in the Atlantic. A 3-2 shootout win over the Detroit Red Wings. Nick Suzuki, known as a pretty decent two-way player here, but is showing some really nice offensive chops this year as well.
I keep thinking every time I see him doing what he's doing, he scored an awesome shootout goal too.
Yeah.
In that game in Detroit. Can you imagine Nick Suzuki as a number 2 center in Vegas behind Jack Eichel? I mean, and again, it's not like you can criticize Vegas. What are they, 12-2 now? I mean,
yeah,
they're off
exactly.
Amazing. But that is the one move because Vegas has chased going back to the Cup final from the get-go. Boy, Nick Suzuki, that's the way out away from Vegas, I think.
They chase everything. Phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, the thing for the Habs is that the positive last night for Montreal was that until last night, the only guys scoring were Suzuki and Caulfield for that team. They need to find more. And so for Mike Hoffman to get a couple and to get offense from another line was a positive thing. But, the Habs gave up so many days defensively. It's going to be one of those years where Artie St. Louis is going to try and keep developing the offensive mindset of that team, and they're going to be fun to watch. But, man, they give up a lot on the other end. Holy jumping. Jake Allen was unbelievable last night.
He was stopped 41 of 43 did Jake Allen. All right, that wraps up our Round the Horn as far as the Canadian teams go. I wanted to go streaking with you, though, Pierre. A lot of teams really streaky right now in the National Hockey League. I'm just going to read off some of these streaks. You tell me which ones stand out to you after the fact. All right. 10 teams are on 5-game streaks of one description or another. Vegas, 8 straight wins. St. Louis, 8 straight losses. New Jersey, 7 straight wins. Winnipeg, 7 straight games with points. Pittsburgh, 7 straight losses. Calgary, 6 straight losses. Ottawa, 6 straight losses. Seattle, 5 straight wins. Washington, 5 straight losses. Columbus, 5 straight losses. I don't know, maybe we start with the St. Louis Blues, because after winning their first 3 of the year, the wheels have completely come tumbling off. I don't know what level of DEFCON they're at there, but it has to be pretty significant.
Well, and that's an actual losing streak.
Yes.
They have lost 8 games in regulation, which is almost unheard of in today's league.
Yeah, 4 straight or 1 or 2 goal losses as well. 4 straight.
Yeah, like Pittsburgh, I think, is on a 7-game winless streak, although they only have 1 point. So Pittsburgh's almost in a similar situation. I wrote a piece in The Athletic Monday talking to Ron Hextall, who really believes the Penguins are going to turn this around. But I tied these 3 teams together. These 3 teams that have all they've done for 15 years is win games. St. Louis, Pittsburgh, and Washington. Now, Washington's not in as dire a situation compared to Pittsburgh and St. Louis, but they're not playing great hockey, right? And when you tie these 3 teams together, and by the way, Pittsburgh's in Washington tonight, it's about how far can you extend that window. I mean, think about how many years the Blues, Twins, and the Caps have been competitive.
Yeah,
like it's been forever, and it just, I think, takes its toll, no matter how smart you are, and these teams have been really smart, that you can't do it forever in the cap system. Plus, you've got teams finally after all these draft picks that are trying to push up. New Jersey Devils are trying to push up this year. Detroit, Buffalo, and so. How do you hang in if you're Pittsburgh, Washington, St. Louis? I got to tell you, I would have never predicted that the St. Louis Blues would lose 8 games in a row here in the opening month of the season.
Yeah,
I didn't see a precipice for them like we're seeing right now. I didn't think they were a top 5 top contender either, but I thought they were a playoff team. And Doug Armstrong had a long, like a 27-minute, I think, media session last week. They've lost 3 games since then.
Yeah.
I mean, he warned everyone there are going to be changes. And, I think I'm going to write about this today for The Athletic. But there's a team that didn't think they'd be sellers that now may have to be sellers. And there's 2 obvious pending UFAs. One is Vladimir Tarasenko, who has a full no trade. So that's a bit more complicated. But the other guy has 0 no trade protection, is Ryan O'Reilly.
Yeah.
Pending UFA July 1st. I got to tell you, I mean, You're a Stanley Cup contender and Ryan O'Reilly is available closer to March 3rd. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That's a piece right there.
Just a couple of goals, no assists. So that's it in 11
Yeah,
games
he's not playing
played.
great at all.
And he's minus 12 right now. Different role on this team than on the cup winning team, right? His role has changed, but still 2 goals and minus 12 for Ryan O'Reilly. Are you more impressed with the Boston Bruins this year or the Vegas Golden Knights? When you think about what the narratives were heading into the season, right? We wondered about Vegas and their goaltending and what would it look like? And the Boston Bruins and their injuries, well, never mind. For both of these teams, they're both just blowing the doors off.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm equally impressed by both teams because, well, let me put it this way. I guess technically I'm more impressed by Boston because I really thought they were really battling father time. It's funny, we just talked about Washington, Pittsburgh, and St. Louis. I would have really thought Boston would be in that situation, given that Brad Marchand was supposed to be out longer than he ended up being.
Yeah.
You know, Patrice Bergeron comes back for another year. What's he going to be like? David Krejci comes back. It just felt like the Bruins were really trying to push this thing. I think it's phenomenal, what they've done on the ice, and we'll see if there's sustainability for the rest of the year. But Vegas, I mean, to be honest, Vegas led the league in man games lost to injury last year. Like there had to be some positive regression just to have healthy bodies, right?
Yeah.
But the wild card is that Logan Thompson in goal. I mean, Robin Leonard's not there. And so we got a glimpse of Logan Thompson last year, played for Canada, the World Championships, but what do you really have there in goal? And so far, I think that's been answered.
Yeah, no question about it. By the way, just doubling right back to St. Louis, any sense that Berube might be hot seating in that situation?
I mean, he signed an extension just last year.
Yeah.
Doug Armstrong, the GM, really seemed to be as strong as can be, even publicly. I know your point is it's one thing what a GM will say publicly and then what he really feels behind the scenes. But I felt that was pretty genuine from Doug Armstrong about the coach not being the issue. So, yeah, and I hope that more GMs think that way because it shouldn't always be the only answer is to fire the coach.
Yeah.
And what's happened in the cap era since 2005 is that teams in the first half of the year are so paralyzed by the inability to make trades, or at least trades of significance because of the cap. As you get closer to the trade deadline, the cap number comes down and there's a little more flexibility. But it shouldn't always be the answer, other than GM's answer to ownership, right?
Very true.
So something has to.
Yeah. Sitting on your hands sometimes looks bad for the GM. It is the easiest thing to do, and it sometimes can jar a real change. I mean, I think it happens often, Pierre, also because it does kind of work a lot of times. I mean, a lot of times, regardless of whether it's the wrong guy out and the right guy in, sometimes the change. Look at the Oilers last season, the way it turned around after the coaching change they made. And maybe that one had to happen. But sometimes it's the first thing that happens because it's the fastest, quickest way to spark some sort of significant change. So a few coaches on the hot seat here in the opening month of the half of the season. We'll definitely keep an eye on them. Quizmaster will be angry at both of us if I don't finally bring up Jesper Bratt. Points in 12 of 13. He's got 18 points. Sort of one of those secret superstars. Would that be a good label for him?
Yeah, I think that's fair. On a team where I think people think of Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier right off the bat.
Yep.
But he's a guy that deserves more recognition. And I was talking to a GM the other day about the Devils, and what we're seeing, and he just said, "Let me tell you, they are so fast.
Oh man,
they just come back." And listen, the underlying numbers for this team last year weren't bad, even though they ended up being a 63-point team. They couldn't get a save. And it's not that their goaltending's been great this year either, by the way. Mm-hmm. But they just needed to be around average, literally around average for the rest of their skill set to let them do what they can do. And in fact, Mackenzie Blackwood injured now 3 to 6 weeks with the MCL, although the Devils front office, I can tell you, were actually relieved, Ryan, that it wasn't a more serious injury for Mackenzie Blackwood. So
yeah,
we'll hang in there with Vanacek, with Vitek Vanacek for now.
73 points, 26 goals last season for Jesper Bratt, 5, 13, and 18 in 13 games so far this year. The Devils were through Edmonton here last week, and I mean, exact same thought, so fast. And Lindy Ruff has those guys playing like, man, he's got those guys going. From the fire Lindy chats at the start of the year, then you watch this team and the way they play, that's coach-induced. Like, I've never seen Thomas Tatar play the game the way he's playing the game right now. And that has to be, in large part, coach-induced.
And that's an interesting thing because Lindy Ruff is a pending UFA. His deal expires at the end of the year. He's one of the few coaches left, actually, with an expiring deal. But they brought in Andrew Burnett, right, to be part of his staff. And obviously Lindy's totally on board with that. So you kind of get the sneaking feeling. I mean, Andrew Burnett was a Jack Adams finalist last year.
Yeah.
He probably had more than one. My guess is he had more than one offer out there as far as joining a coaching staff. So kind of feels like this could be a transition year where Andrew Burnett maybe takes over next year.
Yeah.
But boy, I don't know. What if the Devils go deep in the playoffs? Maybe you bring back Lindy Ruff.
Yeah. The succession plan could be in place, or I don't know if you watch Succession, but the
I love that show.
The old guy just won't let go. So maybe that's what we'll end up seeing in Jersey with Lindy Ruff. Okay, awesome stuff. That was a breakdown brought to you by Pro Hockey Life. All right, time to get to the interview portion of the podcast today. Who's got your back? And it's brought to you by Liberty Smart Security. This is a company that specializes in having your back. High quality, advanced smart security systems for your home or your business. Liberty Smart Security uses leading edge technology to protect the things that you value the most in your life. Your home is your castle. Protect it with Liberty Smart Security. Visit them at libertysecurity.ca. I've been using a Liberty Smart Security system to protect my family for the last 6 years, and the systems really are awesome. They're as intuitive as you would want. They could be as advanced as you want. There's all sorts of cool technology that if you're a tech type person, which I know you are not, Pierre, you can get into geo-fences for your security system to kick in and out. You can get into all sorts of cool stuff. Or it can be really simple. Doors that lock and unlock, alarms that set and are easy to unset, monitoring video cameras. Definitely highly recommend Liberty Smart Security to protect the things that matter the most to you. All right. We were really happy to get Trevor Zegras on. Scored a really nice shootout goal the other night, Pierre. Full skill is on display. I talked to Dallas Aikens ahead of this interview, and one of the things that Aikens said to me is that he feels like in some ways maybe this player is still a little bit misunderstood. This sense out there that there's a level of cockiness about him that really is just him being himself, and it doesn't come from that sort of place. And as we had a chance to talk to him, you just get the sense like he says what's on his mind and is just as carefree as it gets.
Yeah, and one of the things that I hope and his personality just really shone through with that interview with us is that he doesn't lose too much of that as time goes on. Yeah. You know, the sport still, to me, has a branding issue at times where as the players get older, they don't want to say as many things. They want to stay within the box and be careful. And it's always hurt the NHL more than the sport, in my opinion. So I hope that Trevor Zegras continues to be what we saw in this interview and what we've seen in other interviews of him shine through that way, because I think he's got a lot to give.
Presented by Liberty Smart Security, here's Trevor Zegras. All right, fresh out of a team meeting at the Great Park Practice Ice Rink in California, forward Trevor Zegras. Trevor, I don't know what the meeting was about. I don't expect you to tell me, but did you come through unscathed, or did you find yourself in any video clips today?
Always on the wrong end of those clips, you know that. No, all good stuff. So, game tomorrow, I'm just getting ready for it.
Listen, I was looking at your guys' schedule right now, and this is a rare, nice little pocket you're in. So you played on Sunday, 2 days off. You play Wednesday, 2 days off. You play Saturday, 2 days off, and you play Tuesday, and all of that is at home. Like this is like a little gift in the early season from the schedule maker, just in terms of getting a bit of breathing room and some, a few days away from the rink.
Yeah, I mean, we need it for sure. We had the back-to-back, flew in from San Jose, got in late, 6 o'clock game. So we've been, I don't want to say pretty tired, but definitely kind of going through some tough stretches. So it's really nice to be at home and, like you said, have some days off for sure.
7 goals to start the year, Trevor. And but one thing I'm noticing from the games I've watched, and I was at MSG last month for your game there in New York, but seems to be a lot of effort too on the other side of the puck from your end. Is that a point of emphasis for you as you continue to grow your game here this year?
Yeah, for sure. That's something I guess I just didn't feel as confident, in last season, was being efficient in my end. And obviously I'm playing with 2 unbelievable players, and Adam Henrique and Frank Petrano, who are great in our end and make it real easy for me. And it helps when you got John Gibson making windmill saves almost every other shot. So I'm just trying to do my part and be in the right spots and help my teammates out for sure.
Yeah, sometimes the evolution, of offensive players is kind of, understanding that a goal saved against is every bit as valuable as going and putting one in at the other end. And, plus minus is a stat that I don't know how much you put into it, but, minus 21 last year. And then you look at where you're at right now, Trevor, you're an even player right now. Did that stat bother you? And how notable is it in your game that you're sitting at even right now?
The plus minus is so funny because it's one of those stats that if you can really look into that number, it might not mean a whole lot, but it definitely stings when you're minus 21 and minus 15. And it's definitely one that you joke around with the guys in the locker room, I guess, before the game. So it is nice to be sitting at even or whatever you said. But, it definitely didn't sit well being minus 21 last year, that's for sure.
That's a much better number on the PGA Tour than the NHL. We know that your roommates with Jamie Drysdale, and I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you how he's doing. Really tough news that we got last week, out 4 to 6 months with the shoulder injury. What's that like for your teammate and roommate right now?
Yeah, man, devastating. On such a nothing hit too. He's such a tough kid that he wasn't even really rattled by it. And driving to the rink the next day, we weren't sure kind of where it was going to go, and we were playing the Leafs, which is obviously his hometown team, and he told everybody that he was playing, and then obviously getting the diagnosis that the labrum was pretty much torn right off. That we couldn't believe that he was even thinking that or wasn't even in that much pain. So the kid's definitely a warrior, and it's obviously tough to see one of your best buddies kind of going through that, but we got a great group, and we're all here to support him, and anything that he needs, we're there for him. So it's all good.
Okay, so I'm going to hold you to that. Anything he needs, you're there for him. You're his roommate, and shoulder surgery is not something that is easy to recover from. So what extra duties around the place are you willing to take up while he's going to be laid up here for a little while? Because, there's things that need to get done.
I got to carry all the waters up from downstairs. So mostly anything that has to do with carrying upper body, any of that stuff, I gotta take the load of that.
Some cleaning maybe, or some
no.
You got to do his laundry, or
no, none of that. Or at least he hasn't asked me to do that yet.
That's coming. That might be coming next.
Honestly, we're still kind of fresh into that injury, so
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah. I remember reading a story, speaking of you and Jamie, that after the World Juniors, I guess it was January 21 when Team USA won gold. I think that was in the bubble in Edmonton. And the Kings and the Ducks got together and flew all their players home from the World Juniors on the same plane because we're back and where everyone's worried about COVID and everything. And so I'm just wondering what that is like to be on a plane. I mean, the rivalry between Team USA and Team Canada. And you're on this plane, then there's USA guys and a couple of Team Canada guys. What's that like on the long flight home?
Yeah, that was wild. I'm not going to lie, that was wild. And it was funny because I had never met Jamie, or I'd met him, but I didn't know him. And it was me, Arthur Kaliev, Alex Turcotte, and we had just won. So we were pretty much partying at the hotel the whole night. And our flight was really early. We were out of the hotel at 6. So we kind of just rolled from our party hotel room right out the lobby, right onto the plane, and we were having a great time, and they were obviously the opposite. But it was an interesting hour and a half, 2-hour flight, that's for sure.
No kidding. Are you at the point? How long did it take after that for you to be able to openly gloat and celebrate that around, or was it immediate? Did it begin immediately, or did you have to just let it right away?
Immediately.
No grace period. No, give them a week
I
to lick
think I
the
wore my
wounds.
medal on the plane home.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I was talking to Dallas Aikens about you, Trevor. One of the things he said about you, lots of complimentary things, by the way. One of the things that he said to me is you're the most verbal player that he's ever coached before. What he means by that is that, I mean, you say what's on your mind, and you know, if something comes to mind, you say it. You talk lots. That you're somebody that loves to communicate a lot. Would you agree with that? And where do you think that comes from in your life? How did you get to be that way?
Oh, gee, I don't know. I think like you said, like anything that comes to my mind, I just say it. There's not like a whole lot of buffer that goes on. And sometimes I got to check myself, but most of the time it's more just things I'm thinking, things I'm seeing out there. And I don't know. People don't usually take it too serious, the little stuff, just because I'm usually talking about plays, D zone, like O zone, face offs, like all that type of stuff. And I don't know. I just feel like that helps me a lot. Just to like speak what I'm thinking and not like keeping it inside, I guess, to say. But I don't know. Just I've always been like that, and I've never been afraid to, I guess, speak on the bench or on the ice.
Now you were on the cover of EA NHL 23 with Sarah Nurse.
Yep.
I can fill you in on something, Trevor. I was pretty good at EA 93 and EA 94 in my university years.
Goodness sakes!
It looked a little different than the game they have today. But you were pretty pumped about that, right? I was talking to someone that said you were pretty excited that they chose you for that.
Yeah, I loved. I pretty much grew up on that game, honestly. Like, I don't know, might hockey, like going having sleepovers with your buddies, grab a couple controllers, play that game kind of all night, and play with my pops, my cousins. So I guess to kind of have the chance to be on that cover was pretty special, honestly. So something I had to do for sure.
Yeah, pretty cool. When you were playing, do you recall? Like I remember when I played, I'm not quite as far back as Pierre there, but I remember some of the guys when I played the game, like Ty Domi was unreal in the video game for whatever reason. Like, who was the guy you loved to play with, or that you thought was just, you know, super high end, that you always had to be that group, that team?
Kaner.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Kaner. I was always the Blackhawks growing up.
Yeah. And would you lock your position and always play as him, or did you switch around?
But he'd usually be on the first line, so I'd run the first line for half the period, call a timeout, and just keep his line out there for the whole game.
Yeah, well, it's kind of how he plays some nights, I guess. Hey.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, do you, when you play now, when you have time, I mean, do you always make sure you're the Ducks and you're Trevor Zegras? How does it work? I mean, you're allowed to say, or
who do I play as now? Sorry.
Yeah, who?
Oh, McDavid.
I mean, I assume you play you, but
McDavid.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah.
You like playing as Connor? Is he? I haven't played it yet this year, so I imagine
he's too good in the game. He's
yeah,
just
like a cheat code.
Yeah, he's like a cheat code. Yeah,
that's funny.
That's good stuff. I also wanted to ask you about the All-Star goal that you scored with the blindfold on. I watched the video a couple of times. I examined the fabric that went around your eyes. I looked at it skeptically. I looked at it, a few different ways, a few different times. You were fully blindfolded in that situation, correct? Like, couldn't see out underneath a little bit? Because it's mind-blowing to me the way you were able to handle it and pick that corner fully blindfolded.
Yeah, well, the way it was supposed to work was I was supposed to be able to see, like, kind of out the bottom. But, like, Gibby had never practiced putting it on me before. So if you watch, he, like, double flapped it. So I couldn't see anything. Right. So I was, like, freaking out, like, talking to him. Like, dude, like, I can't see. And he tightens it and then just skates away. So I'm, like, going down, and I'm just like, oh, my God. Like, I hope I'm, like, in the right spot. And lucky enough, it worked. So it was pretty funny.
Like, you could have just thrown that thing up into the crowd for how disoriented you must have been. Like, are you surprised you were able to snipe that the way you were?
I practiced it a couple times in the morning, so I had an idea of what I was going to do. And the ice was great, and I had a fresh tape job. So I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I was confident in doing it, so I just went in and put all my marbles in one basket, and it worked out. So I was happy.
Yeah, it did.
Right. Now, I can tell you you got a big fan in my house. My oldest daughter is a huge Trevor Zegras fan, but she noted to me before the season that you changed your number. And she was very curious to know why you changed your number. So I'm now asking the question on her behalf. Why did you go from 46 to 11?
Yeah. So growing up, I always wore number 11, whether it was mites, juniors, prep school. I tried to stick with the same number. And growing up, I was a Ranger fan, and obviously Messier won the Cup with the Rangers, so that was something pretty cool, I guess, in my household. And I don't know, when I got to Anaheim, I think I was like number 52. And then we traded for somebody who wanted 52. So then they moved me to 46. And then I never really had any say. So when they asked me this year, I was pumped to kind of go back to the number that I guess it all started with. And I don't know, I've always just liked 11.
A lot of guys, they get handed those rookie numbers, hey, and there's just not much you can do about it.
Yeah, nothing. We had no say. Me and Drysdale. Drysdale, I think, was wearing 34 last year, and so he got the switch, obviously. So,
yeah,
funny.
Right on. Okay, our signal is a little bit dicey, but I wanted to do a little bit of rapid fire with you, if that's okay. So I'm going to I'll throw questions at you, just whatever answer pops into your mind. Okay, you good to go with that?
Yep.
Okay, this is getting to know Trevor Zegras via rapid fire. Here we go. Question 1: toast or cereal?
Cereal.
What'd you have today?
What's up?
What did you have today?
I had an omelet this morning.
Oh, not bad. Did you do your dishes?
No.
They're sitting in the sink right now?
Oh, yeah.
Driving into the rink, tunes or talk radio?
Tunes.
Nice. Favorite TV show?
You can't ask me that. I'm a big TV guy. I'd probably say all time Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Nice.
Entourage.
Have you watched House of the Dragon yet?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so good.
Unbelievable.
Like, might have been as good or better than Game of Thrones. Can I
but
say
the next season's not come out for like 2 years.
I know.
I was wondering about that. The way it ends, especially.
Yeah. So devastating.
Fantastic. So good, though. All right, we're getting sidetracked. This isn't going quick enough. If you did not play hockey, you would be...
Oh, God.
I feel like you want to pass.
I don't know, honestly. I've only ever played hockey my whole life. Maybe lacrosse. I played lacrosse a little bit growing up, so I guess
maybe an actor. I see a few of you guys are on the Mighty Ducks Game Changers here. How'd you like that?
I'd be an actor. That's a good one.
Yeah.
One line. Oh, yeah.
There you go. All right. Next question. What annoys you?
What annoys me? So many things. Anything that Jamie's doing. Eating, talking. The TV's too loud. He's playing video games, so I'm sleeping.
You're about to be doing his laundry for the next 3 months, buddy. You better get over that pretty fast here. One candy and only one candy for the rest of your life. What do you pick?
Reese's Peanut Butter Cups.
Good, solid choice. Walk on the beach or go jump in the water?
Walk on the beach.
One thing your brother regularly beats you at?
He's like a MMA, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai guy, so I'd probably just say like anything like in the regards of like messing around, fighting, wrestling, I guess normal sibling stuff.
Any sort of physical altercation stuff you want no part of with him?
No part of.
Sneaky toughest guy on your team that nobody knows about. Sneaky tough guy.
Troy Terry.
Very good. And finally, if you could steal one thing from a teammate, anything at all, what would it be and who from? It could be a trait, skill.
I'm going to go with Adam Henrique's facial hair.
Very good.
I don't know if that's a skill or just getting old, but
yeah.
Grow a mustache in like 2 days.
Really?
I've never seen anything like it before in my life.
What do you have going on there? How do you do with the with it?
With my facial hair?
Yeah.
I I got a little Movember going, if you can tell in the
Little
light.
Nice. Right on. Hey, listen, really appreciate you doing this, Trevor. I know you guys are busy, but good luck the rest of the way, and hopefully we'll have you back on again sometime soon.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, folks, that's going to wrap up the podcast. A big thanks to Trevor Zegras for joining us here on Got Your Back NHL Edition this week. Big thanks to you for your downloads and your subscriptions as well. Thanks to our sponsors, Cross Country Canada Supplies and Rentals, Pro Hockey Life, and Liberty Smart Security. Hey, if you get a chance, leave us a review over on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to us. We'd love to know how you're feeling about the podcast, the content, the guests, the conversation, good, bad, or indifferent. We want to hear from you. Our DMs are also open. Thanks for your subscriptions, your downloads, and your support. Have yourselves a fantastic rest of your week and a terrific Wednesday. Cheers, folks.